one, and we'll start out by looking at the project visual, timeline visual, and then we'll go into ETPL and training plan, UAT, release 8, cycle 1. I'll do a demonstration. I'll point out all the pieces and parts for you. And then I'm going to turn it over to Olivia to review local feedback on assessments. So a real quick look at our visual. Here we are in November. We got a few things on hold from October. And then we came into November where Olivia's doing a lot of work in assessments. And the application and all that. I'm doing work in outcomes and exits. We got Lynette into system landing page and cross user management stuff. Laura's doing some upgrades to services and service collections. And we're going to be getting to these later in November. So that's kind of where we're at. We've got a lot of things in development right now. We haven't moved over into all of them over into November yet. Got to get that done. And then this will be release 8, cycle 1, ETPL. That'll go from yesterday through the 14th. And I'll show you all of that. Those things came out of our last UAT 6.1. So that's where we are on that. And then I'll jump right into the normal demo and training plan UAT and how this works. Okay. So you'll get a guide. You'll get a link to this guide. It's the training plan UAT guide, release 8, cycle 1. Don't worry about the numbering, but this is a result from 6.1. And 6.1 was where we looked at ETPL training plan. We had a few things in team management that you looked at, and I gathered feedback, and we put those into development, and we came out with some upgrades to all that from your recommendations. The guide is, as you know, starts out with the contents page. Then there's an overview that basically says what this is all about. This is in the SIU UAT environment, and I'm going to ask real quick, Olivia or Lynette, do these folks have their Okta accounts yet, and can they get access into this?
Yes, we did that 2 weeks ago.
You've gotten through that? Okay. If we don't, we're going to have to probably get Lynette to help you get through there. But this is probably the first or second time. I'm not sure. I think you got that all set up with something with Olivia, but this will say there are new security constraints for the environment. When you follow the link to the UAT environment, the system will route the user to the state of Illinois login. After successful login, the user will be returned to the UAT environment where IWDS 2.0 is running. Okay. When you return to that environment, there are no security role permission constraints. So in other words, you got the highest level role you have, because we only have one role in there. So you can do anything that's available in there. This will be focused on entity management. But you will have to log in. We've got that all hooked up now. And you will see, once you log in, you'll see your name at the top right on the screen that shows you're logged in. So just want to make sure that it's still important not to enter any personal identifiable information for anyone. So if you the only place you'd probably be able to do that in this system for entity management is contacts. Don't put any contact information for somebody. But that's it. The rest of that, even though contacts is probably public anyway, but for providers, but you'll be entering provider/employers. That's the entities. You'll be able to enter locations. So let me just go down through what we're looking at. Okay. The homework areas for this week, and the expectations are that we'll get this cleared through by Friday, November 14th. That's a week from tomorrow. We're going to have that open for feedback until then. That gives us time to make sure everything's cleaned up and everything. before we have another session the following week with some state folks. Okay. Homework areas for this UAT release 8. Entity management. So in entity management, we have some upgrades. We have the listing page expansion. We have unique naming constraints now, a few more attributes in contacts. We changed corporate location to main location. We return to list after the entity view. So all those things are, I'm going to demo today. And then we have some fixes in entity location, manager location. One is the entity functions wasn't working right last time. We have some address verification fixes. And then, of course, not allowing duplicate names. Relationship management mass updates, that's brand new. I've demoed that already, but I want to show it to you because you'll be able to get your hands on it and work with it. Then training plan, we have several upgrades to probably, some of them are across all pages like info bubbles, documents coming over to the entity document tab. And then we have some specific ones like on the cost page, zip code upgrades, and just some other things in there I'll try to point out as I go through. Okay. Like I said, the due date's November 14th. In this document, you have access to that environment right here. You'll want to go hit that link, and then that's when it'll have you probably log in. Here is the UAT notebook. I'm going to show you that here in a second once I explain what else is in this document. When you log your entries, remember you'll log them into that notebook. Document this information you're completing in that notebook. Provide some kind of screenshots if you can. Be very specific. Put your initials in there, so if you can, or name, so we can get back to you personally if we have a misunderstanding of what that's all about, or I can call you out in a session and say, hey, what does this mean? I'll try to keep up. I will definitely answer everything that's in those notebook documents, but I will try to keep up regular during the UAT session. If you have multiple issues arise in one area, please log each one separately. That way it gives us a chance to put log an issue against that specific thing. Remember, test thoroughly, be detail oriented. Even if it's not your role, it's really important to get that usability feedback and get the feedback for how this works. But if you need to bring in, there's a couple situations we always want to say this, because you've been selected to be a part of this group the whole way through, but you might need to have an entity management administrator type folk or a training plan reviewer type folk user to come in as well, and just if they can't get access, give us a heads up on that. Give us the steps to reproduce the issue. Please screenshots if you can. Tell us if you're in, Edge or Chrome. It might help. You might have a couple other browsers you use. It doesn't matter, but that might help if you think, for any reason that might be a cause of a problem. Okay, there's 3 types of issues that we have. There's bugs. Those are definitely things that we're going to address as soon as possible, and those are where the system does not perform as the requirements. Okay, it's not just when a system is giving you an error or something like that. It's also when you see something that that's not part of the requirements. Issues if the system is performing according to the requirements, but you feel like that it's not, the requirement was not captured correctly, or it's just it wasn't realized because it's words on a page, then we log those as issues, and then enhancements. Those are always welcome too, and we'll log those issues. Enhancements, at most times we have to take those in front of a chain at this point in the system development cycle. We have to take those in front of our change group, management group, and decide if we're going to get those in before our release one, so to speak. Best practices for effective UAT. Think like a end user, right? Approach it as if you were someone that was managing entities, managing training plans. Think about it as a provider, or think about it as an entity management administrator. Okay. So what I've included down here, I have not included pretty pictures down in here, but I've included step-by-step guide on how you get through entity management. I don't think I've provided that to you before in here. Before, I just provided pictures and descriptions, but I didn't provide you exact how to get through that. This is step-by-step, and I've put red lines, red sentences in here are new if it's the entire thing is new. To call out where we have changes. Okay, so I took the step-by-step process. For example, steps to access the entity relationship management landing page. This is new. This whole feature is new. I'll show you that. Steps to view the provider relationship management page. This is all new. Steps to edit. This is new. Okay. Then we get back into our accessing the management landing page. There's just a few, you'll see things in here that are new, but not the whole area is new. But if you want, you can go step through this step by step by step. Obviously, you don't have to if you're very familiar with it. A lot of you have demoed and used it and UAT'd in it before. So it's not major new, but if you reflect back to this every once in a while, you'll see those areas where, what am I looking at that's changed? Because some of those things, like I don't see what's changed. Be sure to flip back over here. This talks about adding an entity, finding an entity in an entity list page, viewing a location, editing an entity. You'll see some of these don't have a lot of new things on them. Adding another location, but they lead up to something. Adding a contact to location, adding training programs. Now you get into quite a few changes. Training program, page of study. And then adding the training program. Each one of these pages are in here. Registered apprenticeship, if you do that route. Pre-apprenticeship, if you go that route. And then outcomes, costs, instructional hours. We don't have anything changing on there. Entry level requirements, we do. And I'll point those out to you today. Program offerings page, that's the next one. The ONET codes, we have a few changes on those. Program performance, we had a little change on that. Assurance and certifications, no changes, but we had a little bit on the review and submit. Okay, hopefully everything's working today. And if it's not, well, I'll make sure it gets working soon. So that's that will lead you, if you just took that route, it would lead you through kind of a happy path, so to speak, on getting through all this. Now, I do see we have some numbering issues here we'll fix, but anyway. So the next thing I'm going to show you was that, and these will be out in the resources on the project website also. If you've got that linked, also look for an email from Kelly that provides you with information on how to get to this document. And then in this document, we have the links to all the stuff you need, like this and the report. If I hit this UAT report link, it would give you to the notebook. All right, so let me see if I can actually get this a little bigger so you can see it. Okay. You'll notice here, release 8, cycle 1, you'll see these releases are closed. You'll see the reporting example. This is just an example of how you would do a report. I did this a long time ago. It's just sitting there. And that's just an example of how you would report with your initials. This is how I would respond. I would put in a bug number or story number if issue number, if I actually thought it was necessary. Otherwise, I would make sure I had enough explanation if it wasn't. In here, the first page is the participation in UAT. We like to know who gets in and gets around. We like to know how many people we banged around on this, even if it's just one page, one area, or it's all of it. that's okay. We would definitely want participation in this as much as possible. And over here, if you had some overall comments, don't feel like you just put them, they don't pertain to one of these pages or areas, just put them right in there. If I stretch this out a little bit, you'll see that we have entity location. I put a few images in here and there, but we have the entity location list expansion. We have unique naming and entity management. We have contact upgrades. We have relationship management. It's a whole new section and area that I'm going to take you through. We have a new warning block at the top of the page instead of the bottom. We have some zip code changes on the program of study. I have some changes on the entry level requirements, cost page, ONET page, and then review and submit. So what you do is just come in here as always and start putting in, any comments you have, issue, whatever. As you know, that's how you do that. Okay, put a screenshot in whatever you want to do. It's kind of a whiteboard, so to speak. You can put any kind of notes you want in there, any kind of discussion in there. And the reason for we doing this is because this allows others that are doing UAT to see if an issue is logged, and feel free to put your name all against that also and say, hey, yeah, I had the same issue, or I agree, or whatever. Or if you don't find it there in that section, you can then you can add it. So it's always good to see what other people are experiencing. You might see one of those things and say, oh, I missed that. How did I miss that? Let me see if I get that same response from the system with the data they put in or whatever. So that's why we like to do it here in the open. We like to have a nice open forum for everybody to discuss the system. Okay. Okay. So you have the guide and links to the notebook, and then of course links to the system. This is staging. I'm going to go to that. You will see this. It'll have a UAT at the top left. I'm logged in, as you can see. Once I logged in, so if you come to this page and you're not logged in, it should take you to the login. If not, drop this down and hit sign in. There'll be a sign in there, but I'm assuming it'll take you to the login, but you can definitely hit sign in if you don't. Once you sign in over there at the Illinois State login, iLogin, which is what we call Okta. Anyway, they log in over there, it will bring you back to here. Just give it like a second or two. I noticed that sometimes I get impatient, but it'll eventually fill this out and you'll see what I see. Okay. You don't have to worry about any of this stuff in the middle right now. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at entity management. We direct you to entity management. It might not be the first thing, but entity management, I'm going to direct you first. This is not changed. You have the searching capability here on the left, which we call the search panel. On the right, we call it the listing grid. You'll see grid and list used kind of interchangeably, but this is the list of entities. It always brings you into the first page, sorted by alphabetically. I'm going to take you, even though I showed you UAT here, I'm going to take you over to here because I got a bunch of stuff in here. And I'm going to take you to show you this. This is the new format. Okay, we have the name, the entity type. I've shown this, I think, last week, but you'll get to play with it. The number of locations, the identification. You will see that when I put in, it will search, of course, name, location. It'll also search anywhere in the location. It'll search ID over here, this identification, those kinds of things. I have one in here called spillway I made up. And you'll see it puts spillway in there and it shows you the locations for that. This is the new drop-down expansion feature. You can see the entity name, you can see all the location names, and you can see the address, all the different addresses. So let me go back in here and put in city colleges, and I'll show you something that it actually does not do. This data here has been migrated over, and we'll have to get this all cleaned up on this, but you'll see Today, it doesn't allow this name anymore. Now, this is two actually different spellings because they used this asterisk, so it wouldn't have said no, it's not. But there's also quite a bit of checking it does now on different types of characters. It doesn't allow repeating characters or repeating spaces after two. So, but the reason I wanted to bring this in is you can see here, there's 31 locations there inside of that. So those are locations for City College of Chicago, and I can go directly to a location. I can just see the address and go to a location, or I can go into the entity itself. Okay, so this is the entity view. This is the location view here. So if I go into the entity view, I see the entities, and then there's the locations right here. Okay, also. So if you wanted to, I'll show you something here. If we go to the last page of the locations, there's not quite a few locations here. Okay, so whoops, did I skip some? Okay, Wright College. I had to go to 4. Now I could have had this set right to 40. Okay, and then in that case, I would have had probably all of them. Yeah, Wright College right there. But when you come in, it defaults to like 10 because most of them don't have 40 locations, right? So if I wanted to get to Wright College here, I would have had to come to here. I would have either had to page through them, or I would have had to go to the last page, or I would have had to change this to 40 and scroll down to get to Wright College. But now, if I go back to the entity list, right, you will see, that I can get right to Wright College just by looking right here. Okay, so that's a big advantage. Okay, the other thing is I wanted to show you was you see how I came back exactly to the list where I was, right? So let me make a better presentation of that. Let me just do a search for maybe like Maine. Okay, so there's a lot of locations that have Maine in them. There might be a lot of names that have Maine in them, but you say, well, what is all this? Why is there so much here with the word Maine? I don't see Maine here because there's probably a main street in these locations. There's Maine. Okay, so remember it does. So if I go in here, one of these has Maine in it. Right there it is. Okay. So that's why these are all here. But if I go in to say page 4 here, and I find, I think, let me see something that's, I think it's this one. Okay. Nope, that's not it. And I go back to the list. It should take me back to that list, page 4, that list. That's another one of the things that's been upgraded since you've looked at it before. So it doesn't clear all this out. It doesn't take you back to page 1. It takes you back to the filtering you already had set up. It takes you back to the page you were on, and it takes you back to the part of the scroll page you're into. So that was a big help when we got that in, and I just want to point out that feature. Okay. So the next thing is let's go to something like, let's go to Best Buy stores just for the heck of it. And I'm going to copy this right here. It's real simple. All right. So I'm going to go to add entity. And let's just say I put this in here and did a search, and I didn't pay attention to this, or I said, oh, that's okay. I'm going to still add it. Okay. If I go to add entity, okay, and you'll see that I try to add this right when I add anything that's the duplicate, it says, no, duplicate provider name, you can't do that. It tells me now, it shows me that. It also, when I hit the save here, it would also say, no, I can't save that. Okay, so it tells you that it's a duplicate name again, and we're trying to keep those duplicates out of there. So if you said, well, now I really want it to be another Best Buy store, well, it should probably be another location, first of all. But it also could be that there's something very similar to that that's named something a little bit like it. All right, so okay, and then I can go forward with all that. So I'm not going to add that entity, but that's the duplicate entity check on that. Now, if I go into, let me go back to, and you're going to say, well, I see duplicates. That's because we actually migrated this data from existing data. Okay, that's why there's duplicates in this system right now. Going forward, we're going to try to prevent duplicates. Okay, so another one is if I'll go to this spillway because I know I'm not hurting anybody else's data, and I'm going to go in here to the spillway automotive, and you'll notice I have this location 3. Okay, if I add a new location, and that's a stupid name, but I'm just saying if I add a new location name and I said location 3, you will see the same thing happens. You can't name locations the same name either. Okay, and we're preventing that as best we can. Obviously, if you said location 3 and my location 3, it would not think it's a duplicate. We cannot prevent that. Okay, but we're just trying to say, hey, if you didn't check that you already added location 3, like if I didn't check that I already, one of the things, the biggest thing we're trying to do is you'll see probably in here, Lincoln Land Community College. You would see that 4 times. Okay, we're trying to prevent that. You're going to have to put in there like main campus, or you're going to have to put in there a city name like Springfield, or you're going to have to put something in there that designates the name to be a different location. Okay, another thing we've done here, I'm just going to go ahead and put in here. I guess it was spillway, automotive, and I'll put Southern Branch just for fun. Okay. And then I'm going to put, I have no idea. I'm going to put 566 Maple Street. And I'm going to put, I have no idea. Evansville. And I'm going to put in Illinois. I have no idea the zip. That's going to be a problem. But I have no idea what the zip would be. Okay, I'm going to try to save this, and it's going to do an address lookup. Should do an address lookup. Do I have not something in here? Okay, it's not saving. Okay, so it should do an address lookup. So let me go into let's go into it here. Add a location. Yeah. Not even a zip. 628. Well, I know this is valid zip. Okay. Should be able to save this. Okay. So before, actually I hit something that was close, but before, if it did not find it, there was just an empty spot here and you didn't know really what to do. Now we'll say, could not find any matching location. This is close enough that it says, you know what, I bet you're thinking that this is what it is. And I'm going to say, yep, it is. And allows me to continue. So we fixed that area where it was confusing, where it just came up with nothing and he didn't know what to do. Okay. Another thing we did was in our contacts. Now, when we add a contact, you'll see that this email is required for a contact. And right here, you have a new switch that says receive notifications and emails. So that is why to enable us to have this switch, we got to have an email here, and that's a new addition to this. Another thing is if you don't change an address in a location or a contact, if you don't change any of the address fields, then it's not going to do another address validation and confuse you. Okay. It's just going to update the fields that you do change. So that was kind of annoying before. Somebody probably said something about that um, where you change a name or you would change something on a contact that was nothing to do with the address, and it would go through the validation process again. So we don't want that to happen. Like I said, we changed corporate location to main location. The reason we did that was because, there's a lot of organizations and stuff like that, and corporate location didn't really necessarily make sense. So I'm sure it might work for employers, maybe, but it doesn't always work there, and it doesn't probably work for a lot of providers. So we put main location as that. You see that right there. We also added the ability to now get our entity functions. So if I go into edit mode on a location, you can now go in, and if you pick training, base union, learning, and you'll see 3 items are selected there. If I save that, then you should be able to see that those are now in there. Same with social services. I didn't do that. Those were not working before, I think. Social services here, you can pick at this level, the whole category level, or you can just pick whichever ones you need to pick. It should come back and show you those. So that's all should be working there. You may have pointed them out, or we did also. Okay, I think I'm going to skip over to relationship management, that piece, and then I'm going to come back to our training programs. Okay. I'll stop for just a second. I'll look in the chat, and I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions right now. Let me get my chat going here, and I'll see what we got here in the chat real quick. Rory has something here, I think. Rory, you're thinking about this could be a big help. Wait a minute, let me go up here a little bit. No, we got a bunch of AI here. And then we got Rory, you're saying this could go, you saying this could be big up. You talking about the expansion, or what are you talking about?
Yeah, just what
Okay.
all the things you're showing where it'll catch just I mean, I know sometimes they can be annoying, like you said, but luckily it's not going to pop up every time, so that'll help. And I can't speak for everybody, of course, but yeah, I mean, like for me to have it come up, it's like, yeah, I do mean this location, to have it come up once in a while, sometimes it's kind of like worth the
Yep.
price of because again, like I said in the comment, I mean, it can never be 100,000% foolproof, but
Yep.
anything that can help mitigate the duplicate entries, because in my experience
Good.
with IWDS, the current IWDS, duplicate entity entries were never really an issue that I ever encountered, because the current IWDS, with the fiend, if you put the FEIN in and it's duplicate, it'll catch that. But for the location duplications, that's where I think there was just a lot that have built that were, and we're all I think better about it now in recent years, but that's something that was built up. So anything to mitigate the potential for duplicating location entries would be great. Is great.
Good. We're getting that right next, the new relationship management piece. We're going to go there now. So we're going to skip to that, and then we'll come back to training. So, all right, new relationship management piece. I'm going to go really to get this to sink in for folks. I'm going to actually, let's see here. Am I on a location? Looks like I'm on a location. I'm going to actually add a relationship, and then I'm going to go back into that relationship and then actually edit it. Okay, so if I went to add a relationship to this bill may thing, I would go in here, and just to remind everybody, you can put this is an optional field. It will generate actually a relationship ID. You do not have to put this field, but if you have this field somewhere else, like in an accounting system or something else. So I'm just going to put in here 2026. I'm going to put in, just for my funness, I'm going to put in, actually, I'm going to just make it so you can see that I'm going to do 2 things here, and then I'm going to put 01. Okay. I'm going to select the type, and I'm going to select, let's go with 1. Okay. Now, I can set this relationship for multiple locations. I have one or more locations. I came in, even though I came in and added this relationship from the location page, I can say, oh yeah, I need the same relationship to apply to these other locations. So I can do that too, right there. Okay, so I go to the next page. We have to, there's this area down here would tell us that we need funding. So we would pick, and I'm going to do 1A and 1D. Okay, I'm going to say this is from 07, 01. I could use the picker, of course, 2020. 5, and I'm going to put it out to, the reason I'm going to do this is, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to put this to 07. Whoops, I'm going to put this to 06, 30, 20, 28. Okay. Okay. So I get 2 rows there, 1A row and a 1D row. Okay, and I go to the next page to do this, and I say, okay, here's all the service levels, and of course they are on the same date right now because I built them that way. I could have changed the date on the 1D alone. I could have changed the date on the 1A alone. It just was easier to build them that way. I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to have career services and some supportive services and some training services. And when I do that, I have to get all the service levels, which today in IWDS is activities. I'm going to pick all of those, and I'm going to pick all of these. And then I'm going to pick, this should be just, well, I'm just going to pick some of these just for fun. Okay. And you'll notice once you pick them, it'll tell you, you picked 4 there, 9 there, 17. And then that's everything there is to do to set that up. Okay. So now you'll see that I have 1A, 1D. I have 2 different service levels here and a training service. And now when I go back to the location, you'll notice that we have one relationship and it has 1A and 1D in it. Now, if the date, and I'll show you that right now, if the date on one of these is different, then it shows you them to you in 2 rows. So if I came in here to edit this, and I said, okay, I'm going to, let me go to the edit and then go to,
Al, it looks like we have a raised hand. Rory, did you have something you needed to ask?
Yeah, I apologize. I was going to lower it because I don't want to stop the flow of the momentum. It was just a really quick question about the relationship ID. So I can hold it off.
yeah, we'll come back. I'll come back to that. Good. Keep your
Yeah.
hand up, please, so I don't forget that. Okay.
No,
thanks.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and so
Thanks,
if I
Kelly.
come in here and I wanted to change, like I said, so if I had changed this one here, the date on this to say 27, okay, and save that, and then I did a save and exit. Then I came back to location. I just wanted to show you this so you understand what you see. And now you see 2 rows. It says the same location or relationship ID in both, but it just shows you, it points out to you that they're at different dates. Okay. All right. Tell me about the local relationship ID, Rory.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sorry because I should have lowered my hand immediately because I said, oh, wait, I think he's getting this. I think the screen is going to answer my question. So on the just coincidentally, was sitting in on the for any updates and stuff sometimes that Chris Thielen has on the local. There was the state local system administrator training that Chris does a couple times a year, and so the question that had come up about creating relationship numbers currently in IWDS, and someone had asked about in the new system, will we still be able to create them or would they be auto-generated? So I chimed in, I said, I think both, but don't quote me on that. So I had forgotten what we had discussed in these sessions, a while back about that. But so it looks like the system will auto-generate for you a relationship ID. But if we do have kind of our own kind of system for like accounting and measure, like that we want to assign a local
Yep.
number, we can still, it looks like we can do both. So
You
that
bet.
would, yeah, that was my
Both are there. You do not have to do a local. I think Chicago doesn't care about local relationship IDs, for example, but some LWIAs do. You can definitely do this if you got some kind of pattern you want to use and it's recognizable. You can
Yeah, and then
definitely do
for reporting and tracking in that, we'll be able, if we wanted to search by relationship number,
Yep.
the system give us the option to search by either assigned,
That's correct.
assigned and or local relationship numbers.
That's correct. In
Awesome.
reporting, you'll be able to search by either or. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the reason I want to do that was now they're there, right? And so you saw if I wanted to extend or retract whatever the dates around an active relationship, right? Or any relationship, okay? Here's I want to show you how I would do it. Okay, so this is Spillway Automotive, and this is the Southern branch. Okay, so let me get back all the way out here and let me just refresh this page. Okay. So I'd say, okay, I need to go to Spillway Automotive and I need to change the date of relationship on my 1D relationship. Okay. So I would say this is the quickest way I know of is to say and to search for Spillway. Okay. And I'd say, okay, there it is. Okay. Now I would say, okay, I need to do which location? Well, I need to do the Southern. Now we do have it in multiple locations, but you don't know that yet. Okay. And then I would go down here, I'd hit relationships and I'd go down there and I'd look at them and I'd say, okay, and that was 3 clicks. I know that's not too big of a deal because today it'd probably take a lot more. And then I say, okay, which one do I need to do? I need to do the dislocated worker 1D one. Okay. So I'm going to go into that 1D one and I'd say, okay, I have 1D, 1A, these are all in one relationship. So I was like, oh, okay. Okay. So I need to edit it. Okay. It's not in edit mode. Okay. And then I need to go to this page. And then I'm going, okay, here's the 1D. And I need to change that to say 29. Okay. And then I'm going to save and exit. Okay. I just did that for one location, one relationship, and one entity. Okay. Keep that. Remember what I just did. Okay. Now, if I have the role to allow me to do this, I can go to manage provider relationships. Okay. There's not much data in this system right now, right? So these would be page after page after page, but these are locations right here that have relationships. Now, you would still search because imagine there's a lot of data, and I'll show you this in the in staging, but you'd still search for your location and you'd say, okay, which one of these locations? I wanted the Southern branch. I open this up. There are the 2 right there. I say, okay, yeah, I want to edit and I want to change this one right here to, I want to change that to 06 30 30. Okay. And then, 06 30 20 20 30. I could use the picker, by the way. And then I can save and exit, which would save and get out of there. And that's what I'm going to do. And what that would do is it would change that one to 30. I could also, if I had a bunch of relationships here, 1A, 1D, and I have a bunch of different ones, I could just change them all right here. And I could say, you know what, I'm going to end those at 11/6 27 2027. Okay. And I could this right here would change them all. Okay. And then if there were lots of them, okay. And they're all changed. Now, as you notice, it puts them back together because we only have one date and that's how we show them. Okay. So that is the mass relationship edit. I'll go over here real quick because I have more data in here. And so if I go in here and I would say, okay, I think Lincoln Land has relationships. Now you see, this is skipping from here all the way down there because we have not migrated relationships. But if I search here, I'll see all the locations here of Lincoln Land that have active relationships. Okay. And I go in here and I can go here and I can change any of these I want and save them and they're changed. Okay. Questions, because I know there's probably questions on this.
On that screen you're in now where it says manage provider relationships, which is it's probably like kind of equivalent to like now what we have is search relationships. It's really minor. It probably doesn't matter. It could just be me. But that first column where it says name, would it, and actually see what everybody else thinks. So obviously, not speaking for everybody, but I didn't know if that would, to put location name instead of just name.
Yep.
So that they don't confuse that in case they're thinking, oh, I'm looking for the entity.
Okay.
Again,
Yep.
it's kind of nitpicking, but I just
No,
didn't,
I like that.
not
I
a
like
huge
that.
deal, but I just thought like that might just from it's not confusing enough just to remind them that like, hey, this is the location. So if you're looking for like College of DuPage Business Professional Institute, like an off-site campus,
Yep.
extension campus, then like you should be looking for that. And so just to clarify location name instead of name, I thought maybe.
Good idea. Yeah, relationship management is also, I think Laura's trying to point this out. You can get the relationship management in IWDS. Obviously, some folks have that capability. Relationships have to be there in order to basically wire up the providers with the services they provide, right? So that when you're assigning a service, you'll be able to find the right providers in your area. And it's also tied to OEA, right? So you'll be able to find the right providers in your areas for that service you're trying to assign. Okay, so there's no way out of it. We have to all do it. We have to manage it. There's no real way. And then on the other side of it, of course, grants linked to those behind the scenes. So anyway, that's a new feature where we put out there to get to those without having to drill down, drill out, drill down, drill out, drill down. That's the idea of that. Okay, let's go real quick over to training. And I'll show you some of the changes that are in there. Did I see that when editing relationship dates in one place, the start date will still be editable? Okay, so when you go in, if you went into the one edit, which was individual, I believe that start date is still editable. And that's a good question. I'm going to write that down because I don't think it should be, but anyway, yes, it is. But on this particular thing, we're only editing end dates. It's for that process of extending or closing down a relationship. That's what this is for. It's not for creating them. Okay. I'm going to go back to entity management. I'm going to go back and we're going to add a training program. I have no idea why I got under this name. I just made it up. But okay, so it'll tell you to search for your entity, and then it'll tell you to hit the training program tab, and then you're going to say, well, I don't see any. Well, you need to go to pending if you're working with any ones that you created, or if you're going to create a new one like I'm going to, then we're going to go right here and create it. I'm going to say counting. Okay, I don't know. Obviously, these descriptions will have much more, will want much more meaning. Okay, so one of the first things I want to show you on this page is, and I know, and pretty much throughout now, is we do have these info bubbles that talk about enter a short description. This is even says expand for an example. This is an example right here of a description. Okay. And this is a short description. Please do not edit these, even though it shows that you have an edit button. But because then everybody else won't get to see those. But not everybody's going to get that edit button. Of course, that's for very, very few people. But right now we're allowing that to be there. But if you hover over these now, we should have most of them should have Laura provided with a lot of text in here. Take a look at them if you want to, because and if you see something you think it needs to be expanded upon or added or something like that or changed, don't hesitate to put that in your UAT notebook. Okay. Obviously that doesn't, but I'm going to fly through this. You see this here, these are put on here, but they're not editable at this time. They'll get set later on down in the review and approval process. So this is here, this program is registered apprenticeship. You'll get an apprenticeship page. It tells you that in the guide. If this program is a pre-apprenticeship, you'll get that in this next page. Otherwise, if it's anything else, you'll get neither. I'm going to do neither, so I get the cost page, but I could probably get cost page from pre-apprenticeship too. But I'm going to go with neither. So that way we have the cost page. We don't have a cost page with registered apprenticeship. And then this has changed. Okay, this used to be a big gray area here, and it used to have 2 buttons, and it was confusing. Start date is going to be from the approval, okay, and then it is the end date is for the first time through is 1 year after, and then after that is 2 years. Okay, so on the renewal side, that start date can be edited and changed. On the first year, it's when the approval starts that out. And then if you put a valid zip code in here and you hit search, and I'll show you that, it'll just go in here. If you put an invalid one in here and hit the search button, it'll take you to the search area. If you don't put anything in here, it'll take you right here. I'm going to do this because I don't know what an accountant is. And I'm going to do just general accounting, 520. So it's 520301. And I'm going to show you what 520302 would look like. So we're going to save that. You'll see right there, it says that accounting. Now, if I put in here 520302 and did that, if it finds that, it doesn't need to open that window. So that's a big change, this area right here. Hopefully that's more straightforward. Right down here, once again, this training program can be for 1 or more of the locations. I could put all of them, or I could just put, I'm going to just put this too. This one here. Okay. First time through, it should not be warning you, but I'm going to hit the next button. It told you it saved it. You have to get that first page saved, or that information saved for us. And then now you can exit at any time and the program is actually there. It's just not submitted. I'm looking at the chat here. If the provider has the ability to go into the system and enter the program's info on the screen, will the provider be able to select and enter the start date, or will the field be locked to providers? Start date, it's going to be locked until later in the renewal process. In the renewal process, you can do it later, but we weren't. It was going to be at the time of approval, and I don't know, Laura, if that is correct. I think, Laura, you're here, but it should be at the time of being approved. Is the start date of the program, and then 1 year later is the expiration date. Okay. Okay. Then here on the outcomes, you can add an outcome. I'm going to select, oh, we just lost the, there we go. I'm going to select an associate's degree in automotive technology. I could do accounting, and then the issuing body is, I'm going to put this here. There should be an issuing body there. It says this provider. Okay. I'm going to hit these two. Okay. I've got an outcome in there. Down here, these can be yes or no. I'm going to hit no, but there's nothing really on this page that's different other than there's this piece right here. It's different. Okay, cost page. We added up here to the top because I think it was down here that a 0 must be entered in the field if there's no cost for the item. We also have now, so if it's like 2,500, it puts your dollar sign there if anybody, somebody wanted that. If you put something in here other than zero, it's gonna make us fill this in, okay? Not changed a whole lot. This isn't changed at all. Okay. This one here, we've added this specific courses. We've changed this a little bit, this language here, a little bit. And then these are kind of, this language here has changed a little bit, but it's pretty much operating the same way, except we did put that specific courses in here. These are all still the same as they were. Program offerings, this is pretty much all the same. ONET codes. This is slightly changed. This is kind of how the other one looked, but you could put in here a number and hit this add, or we could go search for ONET codes. And I'm going to say account again, and I'm just going to pick up accountants, bill collectors, bookkeeping. Put in 4 of them, I guess. That's what that looks like. And then we do have a small change here. When we say yes, now it puts all 4 of these in there. I don't think they were in here before. You have to put, once again, you have to put in at least one of these, and you have to put in a number in those if you're going to use those. Okay, the first time we do not have to. I'm getting through that. This is all the same here. Oh, I wanted to show you here. This is what comes up now on any page that you didn't, that we left something out. So if I come back here, and I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to leave this out just for the heck of it. And then if I came back, well, maybe it didn't save it. It looked like it saved it. And then I came, it's not working. It should show us this message thing at the top of any page. That it's not,
I think it did. I think it worked when you deleted the 250 from books. I think it did. That little message with the yellow popped up.
yeah, it should be here. If I put in, if I
If you
keep
like,
this, yeah,
yeah,
there,
see it's there. It is.
there it is, right there. And put it.
So
to
maybe it's like
check
once you
in
go to
there.
the next.
You're the one who was saying that, hey, because right now you can see this page is not scrolled to the bottom, and this little window
Yeah,
here,
that's
it's
helpful.
was way down here, and you guys were missing it, right?
Yeah.
So
It
that's how
might just be that if you delete it, you have to either try to go to the next cell or save it, and then the box will
and
show up.
as you
But
do
it
that,
does.
they come off of there when you come back to it. So if you saved an exit, you can get really good direction on where you've left off. That's the idea of that. Now, on the last page, we have a change here. You do have to enter the name. We put it in a couple places. Obviously, the name of the person logged in is here. The name of the person's logged in here. It's not much. It's a little bit that you say, hey, basically, I'm saying, yes, I acknowledge this, and I'm also the person that's actually logged in. So obviously you could type in anybody else's name, but that is another issue. Okay. And then I can submit that program, and it's submitted. Now when I submit that program, remember it's in not in edit mode. Obviously, you wouldn't have this status capability if you were in a normal role of provider or whatever. You wouldn't get that. This is just, we got an open, we have no, we're not locked down right now. So that contributes to, and I'll show you that here in a second. So here's pending. I put in accounting. It's pending a review. It's got the status date. One of the other things we changed here is we added in here some dates. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this one here up like I am a reviewer, and I'm going to change the status to say I'm going to recommend this for approval. Obviously, then it would go to the state. So if I was a state person, I may be actually out here reviewing programs. There's that accounting program. I would go to that, say, okay, look through it all and say, I think I want to approve it too. And so I'm going to approve this. Not sure why that says debug mode. Now, if I'm in this Spillway Automotive and I looked at training programs, you would see an active one here, accounting. You see the active date, the end date, the number of locations it's associated to. And if we had performance, you would see that right there. Right now, it's taking you to that performance. Okay. So all those changes, all those steps are in that UAT guide. I'm losing my voice here a little bit, are all in that UAT guide. And if you have any questions, issues, don't hesitate to put those in this here. If there's any issues, we're going to keep going through this and making sure we fix any issues that we find. I found a couple just then, and we'll continue to do that to make this. So those are all the areas, and I went way over time, so I'm going to look at this last question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Olivia. The specific courses button is selected when then it expand, open the drop down in which this. Explain, Rory. If the specific courses button.
Oh, that was back on the prereqs screen. But if there's no time to go over it, it's not a big deal. I can always just
Okay.
I keep forgetting that there's going to be
definitely put it
UAT.
in your comments and all that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting there's going to be UAT and UAT notebook. I can just put all these questions
You
in.
bet.
Sorry
Thanks.
about that.
And would you put that other thing in there that you think this should be
Yeah, I copied that.
this on
my-
this over here? This should be
my
location
notes.
name, so I
Yeah.
don't forget it. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
No, you got it.
All right, Olivia, you can go. Sorry I took so much time up.
That's all right. So I want to go over some assessment stuff with the group. We did not get very good participation from the survey that we did. When I pulled the data, I only had 7 participants. It looked like a few more people had come in and completed the survey. I did stop the survey link we have sent out, and we made some modifications to that survey. I took the feedback we did have, and we kind of reviewed that with, we did review that with the state. And some of the information that was provided, we were able to kind of find some that were like, based on the comments we got, we removed. We understood those probably weren't the open-ended questions we were targeting, or we identified based on the feedback we got that we needed to make the question a little more clear. So we edited a few of those. I have a new survey link that we are going to send out, and we really, really need your guys' participation in this. We need a lot more than 7 folks providing feedback. This assessment will become the assessment that is replacing the initial and comprehensive work you guys are doing in the field. And it is really critical that we get this feedback now so we can incorporate it into the system. So this is your guys' time to pass that on to any SMEs in your team and make sure that they're able to like view the assessment survey and provide that feedback, and that you guys are getting in and doing that as well. I do want to go over a couple things, and then Kelly will be sending out the new survey link and the resources that we used last time, so you guys can see the full set of questions we're asking and see that mural board for that context, if any of that helps guide your guys' thought process as you're thinking through this. So some of the things we wanted to point out, we went through when we got some of this data. The way the SurveyMonkey works is we're going to continue to like take the data from both the surveys and compile it together. So if you already did the survey, great. You're welcome to come back in and do the new survey, but we have those split out, so we'll be able to see the different data that we've got and then can put those together ourselves. We want to make sure that everybody is aware what we're trying to do with these the system, and I know most of you are, but we just wanted to talk about it a little bit more, as we're really working to build sorry, we're really working to build customer-centered and asset-based questions. And these are all open-ended questions. So these questions are there to help have a larger conversation, not necessarily force decisions to be made at this time. And a lot of the questions that we have in this assessment were pulled from the Jody Sue Kelly customer-centered training, as well as other best practice resources for customer-centered design. So for example, this first one, when you reach your employment or education and training goals, what will be different for you? This is a motivation question. This is getting at is what are they hoping this program will do for them? What is their motivation for doing this? So when they maybe run into a situation where things are getting a little hard or they're feeling down, we have that information to help motivate them and say, by getting this, you are really looking forward to being able to do A, B, and C. We want to make sure we keep pushing through and using that as a motivational point with them. So not only knowing what they're wanting to do, but the why behind it so that we can use that to help encourage them. So when you're thinking about these questions, we want to make sure that you're thinking about them from that customer-centered lens. And if there's any questions you think aren't necessarily written in the most customer-centered way, we did get these from a variety of resources. So some of them are more customer-centered than others. And we did flag some of those. You guys flagged some of those in the survey that this didn't necessarily seem extremely customer-centered. So we rewrote those so that we're kind of getting at what we need to know in a customer-centered and asset-based way. So we want to make sure that everybody is aware of that, as well as you're going through some of these survey questions. And I'm not sharing my screen, but I'm over here scrolling through the data. let me share my screen real quick. So yeah, we got our responses and kind of aggregated all this, and then we went through each of the different questions. So like this was a question I was talking about. We had some people say, I'm not really sure what our career planner is going to do with this, or the customer might not know this. And that's even a great talking point too. Like if they're not thinking about that, that's good to start thinking about, start trying to get them to think about the motivation behind why they're doing this. And not just because somebody told them to come here, but how is this going to be beneficial for them? So we went through, there were some that we're seeing a lot of consensus on, folks wanting, we did expand this, sorry, hold on. We did expand the question. So after you rate some of these of if you think they would be beneficial or not, we ask why you picked what you did. And then we are also prompting if you think there's ways we can better word these. We definitely want to know that from you all. But it is really important that this is where you guys are coming in and giving us that feedback. Because after this round, we're going to open up the survey one more time. We're going to be moving this survey on to start development work and get in the system. We can still make some tweaks to the questions at UAT, but it's really critical that we're getting this feedback now so that we're setting the framework for this up in a way that is going to be streamlined through the UAT process. Another thing we kind of identified as we were going through this is after we get the assessment stuff all set up, we might want to come back and look at like info bubbles for some of these questions that are kind of giving some additional context or prompts to career planners, because there's a lot of way these open-ended questions could go. So we are exploring how we could circle back and look at adding, like for the motivational one, like an info bubble that explains the motivation of this, or if someone says I don't know, what are some additional like follow-up questions we could ask them to start to get them thinking about that. So that was something we learned from the initial feedback we got as well. Do you guys have any, I wanted to give some time because we didn't have a lot of participation. Do you guys have any questions or concerns on this? I want to ensure that we're able to get your participation when we send this out later today. I would like to get all feedback by the end of the day on Tuesday, the 11th. I know that that's Veterans Day. So if your office is closed, we'd ask you do it by end of day, Monday the 10th. I know that's not a lot of time. We want to make sure that you guys can prioritize this. We closed it after a week. So we want to give you guys a couple more days, but if you think you need time for full participation, we would like to know that. so that we can adjust accordingly. We want to set timeframes that are working for you all and not just ambiguous timeframes we're throwing out there. If anybody has a concern with the due date of this being the 11th, can you please let me know in the chat or unmute, and we can have a discussion about the time frame for this survey to make sure we're getting full participation. I see your comment, Paul. So Paul doesn't think he'll have the capacity to have it done by then. Do any other folks think they might not be able to have it done by then? And maybe Paul, I can work directly with you on looking at it, extending that a little bit for you, or if there's someone on your team. Have training me either. Yeah, if you had previously participated in the other survey, you're welcome to take another look and do the second survey. I know you guys have a lot going on, so we're not going to require that you do that. I can break out the survey data so that I can see who answered the previous versus the I can compile the data together is essentially what I'm saying. If you do a second pass, if you wouldn't mind sending me an email and letting me know so that I know that I have you in both of the surveys so I don't add your data in both places. We didn't collect name on the first survey, but I did add it into the modified one. So I'll just need to know so I can not duplicate your results. But you definitely don't have to do it again. I do have your feedback from the first time, and we more removed some questions that we know we're not going to do and then made some tweaks to some questions. For example, there was one where we're trying to identify if there's any, the question was on the average, how often do you call off work and why? This was an assessment question we pulled somewhere else. What we were trying to understand is if there was things in the past that they had to miss a lot of work for that we can be aware of so we can help them address that moving forward so it doesn't become an issue. So we definitely reworded that one to make it more customer centered. And then a lot of some of the other ones we completely removed because we had conversations that it belonged somewhere else or it would be more of a conversation.
Where do you want us to indicate if we already filled it out that, like, when we put our name in, do we say second time filling it out, or how do you want us to indicate it?
You can indicate that on the very last page of the survey. There's like any other, just like all full comments. You can just indicate it on that last page that you had already submitted this.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'm reading through the chats. Yes, and if you have career planners from your office that are able to do that, we would like you to send this to the folks like we've done with past homework. If you have some SMEs who you think would be best suited for this, please definitely send it their way. We provide an introductory page and then a link to the recording. We'll provide the link to the recording where we provided more of an overview last week, as well as today's recording, and then the resources. And your staff are always welcome to reach out to Kelly and I if they run into anything or have questions as they're doing this, and we can hop on a call with them or provide them whatever information they need. And if you submitted yours, you do not have to do it again. It's not a requirement. If you have not submitted one, you are required to complete this survey. And then Cassie, you said, wouldn't that question fall into a possible barrier? Yes, so we might know from like, there might be like a childcare barrier or something that we're also flagging that because of this, it could cause issues. But we had more of an overarching question. It could be simply, I'm not a morning person and I kept getting scheduled early and couldn't wake up on time and was missing a lot of work or something like that. And we didn't want to duplicatively ask the same question about, has this caused issues in the past for work after every barrier? It was kind of getting very like, we're trying to move more to asset based and not not a lot of, was this an issue? Was this an issue? Was this an issue? So that's kind of where we put that question there, but we would also potentially flag that in other areas when we learn about they don't have reliable childcare, or they don't have a backup plan if their childcare is unavailable, or maybe they have some legal things they're working through where they're required to be somewhere at a certain time or do specific things that conflicted with work schedules. So there are other areas in the assessment where we might learn that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I think I might have the survey pulled up somewhere. So we'll get this survey sent out to you all. There are quite a few questions on here. We're requiring you to tell us if you think these are good open-ended questions to include on the assessment to meet with the needs of completing the initial and comprehensive assessments. And then we optionally ask under each one if you want to share more about that, so that we can have that context as we're looking at this. And then at the end of each page, there's just, are there any other questions you think we should include in this section? So just kind of an overview of how this survey is laid out for those of you who haven't gotten in there. And then there's the next page. So now we're looking at more education history type of questions, and we repeat that same process. Here's the question. Do you want to tell us more about your answer or possible rewording? Next question, optional. So that's how this survey moves through.
Oh, so it's the same format as the survey, just the questions and the text to language, and you've omitted some and then reworded some. So, but otherwise it's the same format as the one we did yesterday. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
We figured it wasn't crazy long, but it was pretty long, especially with each question almost being 2 questions. So we're like, well, if we know we don't want these, let's take them out to kind of shorten the survey up a little bit. So we definitely made it shorter, not longer. And then because several folks said the 12th does not, or I'm sorry, the 11th does not seem doable. If we move that to 1 week from today, so give you guys to the end of the day, Thursday, does that seem more doable? We actually can move it to the end of the day, the 14th, the end of the day, Friday, the 14th. And then I can get that back in front of folks the following week to get that, these final questions finalized, whether they're moving forward or not. If you have concerns about the 14th, please let me know in the chat, or you can send me an email too if you find out afterwards, and we can work one-on-one to figure that out. Did you add questions about other pages? I noticed in the original, not every page had questions, but maybe other pages didn't need additional information. We didn't add any questions. On some of the other pages, we had some open-ended questions. There is a question though at the very end, Crystal. If you think there are any other open-ended questions that should be included in the assessment on any of the pages, there is a space that you can provide that information, and we'll take a closer look at those. Some of the feedback we got, we're looking at like adding questions, and we did modify a few to kind of expand it a little bit to get at some of the feedback we got. And then I did want to note, somebody had put in a comment that it might be beneficial to have a, like, if they bring anything else up, like a box to note all that. And we will have that on all of the pages. We have a question. We have 2 standard boxes that go at the end of all of the pages. And it is, what else about your health or whatever the page is, maybe it's your work experience or your legal needs. Should we know that should we know so we can plan in a way that works best for you? And so if during the assessment you start having a larger conversation that doesn't fit into one of the questions, this is your space where you can capture that information. And then there's also a space for any career planner notes or observations that you guys make while assessing in that area. Do you guys have any other questions on this survey? All right, and I just want to iterate one more time, or reiterate, sorry, one more time, that it is very, very important for us to get your feedback on the survey we're building that you all are going to have to use. And this is your space to do that. So please make sure you're getting in and getting this done. Or if you have staff you feel are better suited to do this, you're getting in and getting it done. And know that we're here as resources to help you get this done. So please feel free to contact us or have your staff contact us if you're at a point where you're not able, you don't have the information you need to get it done, because we're here to support you through that so we can get the feedback needed to continue to move forward with the assessment.
Yeah, I'll forward it to, again, I mentioned it to the career planners. They said we're down to from people that have moved on or got promoted. So I'll mention it to them again, see if they have time on first look, and I'll take another look at it too. And like Thaddeus and I did it from our area, from our office. But I think the tricky part was, and I'll look at it, with different lenses, is that at first, like, it's kind of either subconsciously or consciously, we're so used to with filling screens, like entering information, filling out, completing, I should say filling out, but like that sounds very paperworky, but like, completing processes like these, we're so in that mode of kind of a linear and very objected, or a little bit more targeted, like gathering of information that's going to make a case, for approving a service, for a certain service or training, for somebody. And so not taking a step back and then coming back to it and looking and saying, oh, these are, like you said, these are dialogue openers. These are kind of conversation prompts to more comprehensively identify, before even assessing or evaluating, just to more comprehensively identify what's going on, what could a person need, what are they, but also what they're bringing to the table. So, and then some might have seen this as like, is this going to replace like everything assessment, like what required, like like the barriers question, like is this going to be brought up, or highest level education? So remembering that, like, this isn't the only place, like where some of these questions or the responses or how the person responds, are going to be included or addressed in the whole profile or application of this customer in IWDS. So that might have been like kind of the tricky part too, is like not being able to see yet where this piece fits into the whole. And like I said, just kind of thinking like, oh, is this like an application form where, you're collecting documents and you're and it's objective, and realizing, not remembering or realizing that the purpose is, like you said, is more of a it's prompting and trying to facilitate a discussion or a dialogue that just to identify other things that could be going on. So that's the way I tried when I did it the second time. So I tried to kind of look at it more that way.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point that I would just like to re-discuss before we wrap up, is the flow of where this fits into the process. Because we did kind of have that conversation at the tail end of the call last week. So this assessment has happened after pre-screening and after. So the customer has completed the pre-screening process. They've completed the application. For adult and dislocated worker, they would have completed the eligibility certification. And then for our youth, they may not have completed eligibility certification yet, because those can kind of happen at different times. But now we are assessing we're getting started to better understand this customer so that we can then move into developing the career plan and enrolling into services. So making sure we are all on the same page in the process. We'll have collected a lot of information on this person already from the pre-screening and the application. And that's what this flag mapping document we provide kind of helps see the kind of question we've collected in these two areas. And now we're at the getting started assessment where we're passing a lot of this information through. And that's where we see a lot of these gray boxes. This is what we know so far based on what you've answered. And here, now we want to dig into this further so that we can understand what you need to be successful, the kind of goals and objectives and services we would set around this customer. And the assessment will just be customer facing. So our pre-screen and the assessment will just be career planner facing. Hope I didn't give you all a heart attack there for a second. The assessment is just career planner facing. Customers have the ability to do pre-screen and application, but then have to meet with a career planner for eligibility certification and doing the getting started assessment. You guys have any other questions? All right, well, we'll get all the resources sent out to you in that link to the survey, and please reach out to us if you have any questions. All feedback will be due by the 14th. Thank you guys for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks.